Hello, and welcome to the Delaware Blogger Podcast. I'm your host, Antoinette Blake, the DE Diva, aka the Delaware Blogger. And every week I come to you with podcasting pointers that will help you to share your mission and your vision just using your voice. A new episode of the Delaware Blogger Podcast publishes every Saturday at 10 a.m. And if you wish to sponsor a show, please send an email to info@ablakeenterprises.com. Again, a welcome to the Delaware Blogger Podcast. Listen in and share with a friend. If you found anything of interest in today's episode, make sure that you share it with your family, your friends, your bae, and your boo too. And don't forget to follow me on Linktree at A Blake Enterprises. Now, if you're a regular listener of the Delaware Blogger Podcast, you've heard me say this time and time again at the end of each episode. That's my CTA, or my call to action, which is what you should be hearing at the end of each podcast show that you're listening to, and what you should be providing at the end of every podcast that you produce. Now, yesterday I conducted a social media for small business workshop, and one of the items we covered was call to actions, the CTA, and why they're important. They're important on Facebook, on Twitter, Instagram, but they're also very important in finding your podcast and engaging your audience. For the longest time, most people have had the problem of getting people to find their platform, discovering their platform, attracting and building an audience. So why not ask your audience to get involved, especially after you've done all that work in creating a great podcast episode? It only makes sense that you ask your listeners to engage simply, by doing something that will be beneficial to them and to you as well. Here are a few ideas that you can say. Ask your listening audience to share the show with others. It's like that pebble in the pond, those ripple effects. If they share it with their family, their friends, their bae, and their boo too, you're going to get more people listening to your show, and it's going to be engaging and discovering of something that may help others. Ask your listeners to send in an idea for a future episode. Is there a series that you're covering? Is there something that you want your audience to share with you? Give them a reason to be part of your podcast. Ask them to listen to another episode. Are there other episodes that you've produced, that they can go back and listen to, like the CTA one that I did last year? Yeah, everyone needs a CTA. Perhaps you want them to go to your blog or to your website to read an article, which is what I always say. Make sure you go over to the Del Blogger blog to read more. And that's where you're going to put those show notes. And I'm going to talk about that as well. Ask them to buy you a cup of coffee, buy some merchandise, your t-shirt, mugs, you got things you want to sell. Ask them to do that as well. Or even attend an event, buy a ticket to an event. I'm speaking at the Black Pod Festival, the Black Pod Festival in Atlanta, right? May 28th to May 29th. I'm going to leave the link where you can purchase your ticket, especially if you're in the ATL during Memorial Day weekend. You can also ask your listeners to share the show via smart speaker. I'm not going to talk too loud and call out her name because she'll ask me what I want. But yeah, your show can be heard on an artificial device. So share that as well. There are so many other calls to actions, and it depends, again, on the type of show and your content, but you should always have a CTA. It can be in the beginning of the show, the intro, the trailer, but make sure it's there. Every podcast episode should have at least one call to action. At least one call to action, not a laundry list. Don't ask, the people to do 50 million things because it's going to be confusing. They're not going to know what to do, and most likely they won't do any of them. So, share. listen to another episode. Things like that, not a whole bunch. Go to my website, fill out this form, leave this, do that. That's just too confusing. So if you can, keep your CTA short and sweet and repeat it because most likely your listeners are doing other things when they're listening to your show. This means they're not focusing on every single second of your podcast, even though you hope that they're hanging on to every word that you're saying. But if you have a simple CTA, your listeners will most likely remember it and follow through. Use the acronym KISS, keep it simple. There's no point in asking people to do something if there are multiple steps involved for them to go through, go to this link, go to this website, do this, do that. No. And not everyone knows what to do. I mean, people may not know what a QR code is. People may not know what a Linktree ID is. So don't assume everyone knows what to do. So keep it simple. Ask them to share it. Ask them to subscribe or leave a review for your show. A simple CTA will take you much further than not having one at all.
Are you ready to join the billion-dollar podcasting industry? If so, Blake's Booth Podcasting Studio is ready for you. Whether you're just starting out and have no equipment, or you're a seasoned pro but need help with production, Blake's Booth Podcasting Studio has everything you need. Conveniently located in Middletown, Delaware, Blake's state-of-the-art production facilities make producing your first or 100th podcast a breeze. No matter what kind of project you have in mind, the professionals at Blake's Booth Podcasting Studio can help with your production or give you the tools to produce it on your own. At the heart of Blake's Booth Podcasting Studio is award-winning blogger, vlogger, and CEO Antoinette Blake, and her goal is simple: to help one more entrepreneur be successful. So stop making excuses and start making your podcast, audiobook, e-course, and other online dreams come true. Call Blake's Booth Podcasting Studio now. 302-261-3530. That's 302-261-3530.
So why is it important to have a CTA? Well, it's going to help you and it's going to help your listeners. Let them know that they are important in the success of your show, or that the topic of the episode is going to help them in some way. This is going to be a pain point solution. That's one great reason for having a CTA. And make sure that you're asking your audience to do things where they hang out. So if you're on TikTok, your listeners are on TikTok or Twitter or Instagram, don't leave a CTA that tells them to share a comment on LinkedIn or Facebook, because that's not where they're going to be. Make sure if you have a food podcast, most of your people are going to be on Pinterest or Instagram. So send them to those social sites. Language matters. You want to make sure that you are providing enthusiasm when you're asking them to do something. If you're saying something all bland and not interesting, most likely they're not going to do it. But if you're excited, people are listening to you with those earbuds in their ears or those headphones on their head. So think about the words you're using, excitement. There's really, think about, if you do this, then you'll get that. Let them know that you're excited and they'll be excited about it as well. So let them know, hey, leave me a review. Was there something about this show that you want to share with your friends, your family? Hey, your bae and your boo too. Show notes are important, and I'm going to just leave you with this one tip when it comes to show notes. Show notes are very important. Blogs are important. I'll talk about blogs all day because the written is just as important as the audio. Did you know that according to some stats, 73% of podcast discovery was from searching the internet? That's right. People were actively going to Google looking for a podcast show. So in your title and in your description, use keywords that's going to explain what your show is about. And here's a tip for you. Use the hashtag listen free, right? Listen free. First of all, free is like the best hashtag that you can use because people are always looking for free. So when you're doing your call to action, remember, it's got to be right for your show. Just because I use If you have found anything of interest in today's episode, be sure to share with your family, your friends, your bae, and your boo too. And don't forget to follow me on Linktree at A. Blake Enterprises. Doesn't mean you need to have the same thing. Think about what you're trying to achieve and then consider your audience and have the CTA that's good for you and your listeners. So again, thank you for listening to today's show of the Delaware Blogger Podcast. Thank you all for listening to today's episode of the Delaware Blogger Podcast. And if you found anything that I've said of interest to you, please subscribe and share it with others. You may even want to leave a rating or review. And check out a few other episodes too. I invite you to subscribe to my blog, adelblogger.com, where you'll find more podcasting pointers and blogging tips and links to purchase a copy of the Basic Blogging Tips for Beginners or Podcasting Your Purpose resource guide on Amazon. I invite you to send an email to info@ablakeenterprises.com to schedule a 15-minute complimentary discovery call or to enroll in the 5-week podcasting coaching session. So until the next time, this is the DE Diva, aka the Delaware Blogger, wishing you and yours a beautifully blessed day. And remember, sharing is caring. So please share this episode of the Delaware Blogger Podcast with your friends, your family, your bae, and your boo too. See ya. It's the DE Diva, aka the Delaware Blogger.